Hello and welcome to DB Photos. This is my first attempt to take you along on a photography walk. I walk pretty much every single day, at least a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, sometimes 4 miles. I love to walk and I love to take my camera along and take photographs. And this was a beautiful morning. The sun was still rising. It was 51 degrees. That is a common bird tree right there, but there was nothing this morning. And I normally don't need gloves if it's above 50, but this morning I did need some gloves. It was still a little chilly. Look at that sun coming up. It was beautiful. So I do walk quite a bit, and I love to take my camera along and look for shots. And I live in a pretty neat area where there's a lot of nature. These trees on the right are a very common hotspot for birds, but I didn't see anything this morning. And there's one more kind of a smallish tree there, but nothing. So I'm back on my journey. This is speeded up to save you time. But as I was saying, I live in a very interesting area where we have a state park on one side of us, national forest on another side. There is a dam and a river. And so it brings in a lot of, that's a good hot spot, that big bush there. But there was nothing this morning. I tried. Well, there were birds, but I couldn't. As soon as I whipped out the camera, they were like hiding behind branches. So I didn't get any shots there. I tried. But yeah, there's a lot of nature in my community. We get coyotes, raccoons, just a lot of stuff. But there's a lot of birds. Okay, this was cool. There's a hummingbird there with the Christmas lights. I love that shot. I've gotten several of these Christmas light bird shots since these lights have gone up. But yes, we get a lot of nature here, and I love it. Maybe not as much as we used to, but we still get quite a bit. This tree here has lately been having a lot of different types of birds in it, but nothing this morning. It's a lot of striking out this morning, unfortunately. My first time trying to take you along. Some mornings there's just a ton of birds, and some mornings it's slim pickings. So I never know what I'm going to get. But I love the challenge. If you've tried photographing birds, you know it can be very challenging, and I really love the challenge. These trees occasionally have some birds, but not this morning. I hear one though, so I keep stopping and looking again because I kept hearing a bird. And that really bare tree there on the left, it usually has birds, but not this morning. There's a trend here, but I did get some pictures overall. So I keep going. All those trees like straight ahead. Occasionally, that's a good spot. I often think that I need to get out of my community and go into more deeper in the nature areas. But at the same time, there's been so many shots that I know I would not have gotten if I didn't know the terrain here as well as I do. I know it like the back of my hand. So I spot something out of place in a tree or on a roof, or so quickly I spot that. So it does help to know your route really, really well. And there is so much nature here that I really like it. And it's easy to just step out my door and walk. That's not to say that I never go anywhere but here. I definitely do, and I love it. But this is like a good 80 to 90% of my photos are taken right here. There was a bluebird, a western bluebird in that tree. Love that shot. And then I keep going on to the next one. It's interesting how there are areas where birds just gravitate there, and there are other areas where I've never seen them. And I'm always studying them, what types of birds are in what areas, and trying to figure out why, and trying to determine how best to draw them to me if I want to. I love those fall colors on that tree I just looked at. There are occasionally birds in those trees on the left, not real often though. And then these trees over here sometimes, but not super often. I did get a nice shot of a lesser goldfinch right here. And there it is. And then I'm onward. These trees here, not very often. I do check, I do look. Spotting birds is a combination of things, and it's a skill I feel I have developed over time. Part of it is listening for them and being able to determine where the sound is coming from. I've gotten good at that. There was a dark-eyed junco here on the fence. I never used to see them around here, and now all of a sudden there's a lot of them. I don't know if they're just here for the winter, maybe. We are a relatively warmer climate. I'm in Southern California. And onward I go. So yes, part of it is listening for them, but some birds are silent. My eyes are also constantly looking for motion, any kind of motion, and it's not always birds. Sometimes it's squirrels, sometimes it's coyotes or raccoons, things like that. Even lizards, those things. My eye will catch motion and start looking for where it was and what it was. But it does pick up birds quite often. And so here was I believe it's a white-crowned sparrow. Yep, white-crowned sparrow, and he was posing for me. Sometimes I really feel like they are just totally posing for me. Some birds follow me on my walk, and they keep getting into these perfect poses over and over. There used to be a bluebird that did it all the time, and I felt like it must have been the same bluebird. I have no idea if it actually was. And then they did a bunch of work on the street. I was paving people, and the birds all kind of went away for a little while. And I never saw that bluebird again, sadly. That was really cool. So these trees over here tend to have birds. But I think this morning I didn't see much. I was hearing a little bit, but these trees are pretty thick. And so, especially with smaller birds, it's hard to see them in there. They're pretty well covered. Occasionally, they'll come out onto an open branch, and then I can get a good picture. There are also hawks that tend to sit in here, usually red-shouldered hawks in this area. So there's listening, there's watching for movement. And you also want to look for shapes, because some birds stay very still and they're silent. And so you look for shapes. Taking a picture of, trying to remember what it was. I'm blanking at the moment. These are such beautiful pine trees right here. But yes, looking for shapes. And the one thing that will throw me is pine cones. You can see there's some in that tree right there. Whatever it was, I did not get a shot of it. Pine cones do throw me off because there is a shape in a tree. And I have probably those palm trees there very often are full of woodpeckers, acorn woodpeckers, occasionally natals, but there weren't any right at that moment. And then this is the parking lot of our clubhouse. I like to just come in here and look around a little bit. There are some trees. There is a red-shouldered hawk that likes to hang out in here. So when I enter, I start looking at the tops of all the lights, the tops of all the fencing, and then through the tree branches. They like to sit in very open tree branches where they have a really good view, or on top of poles. There is a pole right there. I have seen them on the top of the pole. I have seen them on the electrical lines as well. There was a really cute little yellow rumped warbler here in this tree, and I got a couple of really good shots that I love. I love that shot. He was a real cutie, especially with the little pine cone and the pine needles. I don't know if you, I can actually see it moving there from my phone. I love that shot too. So those were a couple of really good shots that I got there. And then I kept on going. The one day I came in this parking lot and there was a great blue heron just sitting in the tree, and it was massive. We do have the dam and the river nearby, so we do get a lot of water birds, which is why it was here. But I've never seen it just sitting in a tree in my community like that. It was truly massive, very impressive. So that pole and those wires, sometimes the red-shouldered hawk sits there, and then sometimes it sits in those trees that I am pointing at right now. I have seen it there. And out here is just state park land. It's just open land. It's really nice. It's very pretty. There's lots of trees. And then around the back here, there is some fencing where the hawk likes to sit. So I was just checking. I always go back there and just take a peek. Sometimes he's there and I get to see him. That we have a few red-shouldered hawks for sure around here. And there's one in particular that just hates the sound of my camera shutter. And I feel really bad. Like, I try not to bother him, but at the same time, it's like, I really want your picture, dude. So I try, but he does get very, very bothered by the sound. But most of them don't seem to care at all about the sound. So here was a little song sparrow singing in some bushes that are below the view of my camera. I'm going to work on the angle of the camera. It's kind of hard because I was trying to get trees. Like, I'm mostly looking at trees, but then when I am looking at bushes and things that are lower, it wasn't getting those. But the song sparrows have a beautiful song. And then this was a spotted towhee, which I have photographed them in Arizona before, but never here. So I was really excited to see that. Mostly I just see California towhees around here, and I like them a lot. But the spotted towhee is really cool too. I've just never seen one around here. So that was a real treat. So then I go up, there's this little path over here that the landscapers actually use. And I go up there. I used to come through it from the other direction, but coming down this slope right here, this is a pretty steep slope. And coming down it, I have a bad knee and I just can't do it anymore, but I can climb up it. The problem with going in this direction is the sun is facing me. So it's hard to see well into the trees because the sun is blinding me. And sometimes the background in my photos can get really overexposed. But there was something in the tree. I don't remember what I was looking for. But this area, there tends to be a lot of birds. And near the end of it on the right, there's a bunch of trees that are usually filled with a whole bunch of American robins lately. And they're really cool to watch. But they were not there this morning, so I can't show you that. But most of the time, these trees are so thick that there are birds. I hear the birds, but I can't really see them well. If I had more time to just stay there and wait, I would probably get more shots, but I wait a few minutes and then I move on. And I still get plenty of shots typically on my walks, so I'm okay with that. I also have bird feeders in my backyard. See these trees on the right here are usually the ones that have American robins in them. But yeah, I have bird feeders in my backyard, so I bring the birdies to me as well. I'm just having trouble getting like bluebirds, orioles, Say's phoebes, or any phoebes actually. We have black phoebes too. I can't get them in my yard. They're like on my street, but they won't come in my backyard. And I have a feeder like specifically for them, like right at the wall. to come in like right at near the front of my yard, but they won't come. I'm still trying. So then I'm kind of looping back after going through that little path, and we saw these trees earlier. And there's those palm trees straight ahead that have a lot of woodpeckers in them normally, but not this morning. And they tend to swoop from the tree to the right of the palm trees. They go there, and then you see them just swooping back and forth from that tree to the palm trees. It's pretty cool. And they get pretty loud. They kind of sound like monkeys, actually, the acorn woodpeckers. It's pretty cool. But I don't know if the people who live right there might not appreciate it. I would, but not everybody appreciates that. And then here on the left, you can't see it, but there's some little shrubbery. There's actually a lot of houses here with some shrubbery, and house sparrows love that kind of shrubbery. And so that one particular house right there, that shrub, there's a ton of house sparrows in it, and they like pop in and out. They're like little prairie dogs. It's so cool. Now this tree right here, I got a picture of a red-shouldered hawk in it recently, and on this day I got a northern mockingbird in the tree. I love the mockingbirds. They're coloring, and they're just so cool. Their front is all white, but when you see them like from the side and the back, there's like all these different shades of gray. Like they're just beautiful. And here's some crows going around. We tend to get both crows and ravens, and when they're flying in the air, it's hard for me to tell. If they land and I can get a really good view of their beak, I can usually tell, and sometimes just their build and their feathers. But if I hear them calling, then I can tell a lot. That's like the best way to tell them apart. They have totally different calls. But it's interesting that we have both. I thought areas either had one or the other, and that they were kind of territorial, but we definitely have both of them in here. We're going to have our Christmas walk coming up, and I will definitely wear my camera and walk that, and share it. I'm sure there won't be any birds unless there's owls out, but I doubt it. With so much activity and so many people, there probably won't be any owls, but I will try my best to record it. And this was, I think, a goldfinch. Not sure if it's a lesser goldfinch or American goldfinch, but it was a goldfinch in that tree. That tree very often has birds. It's definitely one of my places that I stop at. So this channel is very new, and I have some plans, and I know, I don't know what these were. And my bird app could not identify them. I didn't have a clear enough shot, but they were just beautiful. It was a huge formation of them, and they were like just glittering silver in the sky. And that was as zoomed in as I could get, and it still wasn't clear enough. I do have issues with my camera, and I will talk about that in another video. Out here is the state park. We have this little, almost like a little alcove where you can go and see it in between the houses. So I like to go look out there and just see if there's anything. I didn't see anything at this time. So back I go to the street and onward with my walk. But yes, I do have plans to do different types of videos that won't all be like this, but I probably will do more of these. I really want to encourage people to start where they are. You don't have to go out on super long hikes to find birds to photograph. This tree on the right doesn't always have birds, but it is one of my stops that I usually stop and check out. And that palm tree tends to have a lot. It usually has, we have this really rare bird here, or at least it's rare for our area. It's a red whiskered bulbul, and I do get a picture of it in a little bit. You'll see it. And it likes to live, I think it's nesting in that palm tree because it's there quite a bit. Actually, I think I'm getting the picture right here. Nope, that is a yellow rumped warbler. So it is coming up though, the red whiskered bulbul. It has such a loud call or song. I've even, some of the houses I've stopped, where I'm stopped taking pictures of it, the people will come out and tell me like it's so annoying, it wakes them up, it's so loud, but it has a really interesting call. I've never heard anything like it. And the theory is that it was someone's pet at some point and it got loose and now it's just living wild. And I tend to believe that because it seems to like human interaction. Okay, here's the tree where the red whiskered bulbul, if I'm saying that correctly, I hope so. It was in this tree, so the picture's coming. And I think if the sound is still here and it's good, you'll hear its call, and I'm kind of like whistling back to it. But it likes to play, it honestly likes to play hide and seek with me sometimes. And it seems to know that I'm like answering its call. Sometimes it follows me, but not a lot. But I can see it likes to interact with humans, which is really interesting. And I've never seen that in any of these wild birds. So I do tend to believe that it was a pet. But it makes me sad because most birds live their lives with a mate, and it seems like it's all alone. It's a really cool looking bird. And onward I go. There are some little shrubs and bushes on the left here that you can't see that tend to have a lot of birds. The tree on the right, I have this one right here. I have gotten some shots there, but not always. Actually, I think there was a Cassin's kingbird in the tree. But maybe that's when I pass it later on, because I loop back around here. I do a few different variations of walking my community, depending on the distance I want to go and what I want to see. These trees on the left here sometimes have birds. It's not like a guaranteed like bird hotspot for me, but sometimes there's quite a bit of activity. Most of the time just a little bit or none. That palm tree right there tends to get a lot of European starlings in it, but I didn't see them on this day. Sometimes they come in and out like in a group. It's so interesting to watch, and someday I want to get it on video because they'll come out and they'll go like across the canyon and then they swoop back and they all go into the palm tree like in one movement. Like it's like it was choreographed. It's just amazing. And there's quite a few trees here. I don't really see a lot of birds. It's very interesting to me how they're in some areas and not some areas, and like in a very consistent manner. I almost wonder, like, do some of these yards use, like poison stuff on their grass, so there's no food there for them to eat, so they don't go there? Maybe I'm not sure. I would love to do a study on that sometime and satisfy my curiosity. Palm tree straight ahead tends to have a lot of woodpeckers, but I didn't see any on this day. The tall, skinny one, not the shorter one. Yeah, that one right there on the left. There was a little tree there I was checking out. I thought I heard a bird, but then I couldn't see it. And there's a lot of smallish trees on this street that tend to have birds. Some of them are pretty thick and it's hard to get pictures, but I often hear them. This street also has some really nice roses. I do photograph, all forms of nature, and I do flowers. When a flower really stands out to me, I will stop and take a picture of it. But there is one house, it's on the left coming up here. I don't think I stop on this particular day or this walk, but it often in the morning gets just amazing lighting on the roses, like where they are. There's a house straight across the street from it too that has really nice roses, but it never has the same lighting as this one. Like it's just amazing. Like yeah, I it's my favorite spot in the whole community for getting roses. I do photograph them at some other houses, but that one is just because of the lighting. You know, lighting is always what makes a good photo great. It's always in the lighting. So pay attention to lighting and always take advantage of it when it's there. You know, if you work in a photography studio, you control the lighting. You can do whatever. There's some crows going crazy on these palm trees here. So I stopped to get a picture. And there it is. But yeah, if you work in a studio, photography studio, you control the lighting and you can make good lighting. But if you're photographing outdoors, you have to learn how to work with the lighting and take advantage of good lighting and how to utilize it best. And it definitely takes time and practice. I think it's a black phoebe here. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was eating too, which I thought was really adorable. And so onward I go. You might recognize this spot. I'm looping back around, repeating this spot. There's that tree that had woodpeckers, and the one day I saw a hawk in it. And yeah, I love how my community does these Christmas lights from house to house across the street. It's so cool. And like I said, there will be a community, walkabout where everyone has all their decorations and all their lights and everybody goes out to see them. I will definitely do that walk and try to film it, and I'll share it because it's pretty cool. So there is a woodpecker on top of one of those tall greeneries right there. There he is, acorn woodpecker. He sits up there a lot. He's kind of a regular in that spot. It's funny how I get to know certain birds and their spots. Something just flew across. I don't know what it was. And I kept hearing a bird there. I was trying to find it. Yeah, this tree on the right is a pretty frequent hotspot for birds, but I don't think there was anything this time. I saw one fly away, so yeah, it got away. I always try to go on the other side of the street because if you're like on that sidewalk right next to that tree that you want, you're too close and the birds are all going to leave. So, being a very small community, there's not much traffic, and we walk. Most people here walk in the street. I do too. And I try to stay on the opposite side or the middle of the street to not disturb the birds because you always want to be looking ahead of where you are and see the bird before it sees you or before it flies away. So you're always watching as far ahead as your eyes can manage. But yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of birds on this particular walk. Some walks there's a ton, some walks there's not very many. It's always challenging when seasons are transitioning because the birds kind of live their life with the seasons. So in the summer, I have to go out like super, super early before it gets hot because that's when they're up. In the winter, as it starts, or as we're in fall, we're transitioning into winter. It's colder in the morning, so they're not out super early. I have to kind of go a little later, and sometimes I miss the sweet spot, it seems. And some days I just nail it, and there's a ton of birds everywhere. So there was a Cassin's kingbird here on someone's roof. I don't do a lot of roof photos, but I haven't seen a Cassin's kingbird in probably close to a year, maybe a year. Last winter they were everywhere, and then they went away, and I really haven't seen them. Um, but maybe they're just coming in right now for the season. I'm not sure. And then over here on a branch of a palm tree, there was another Cassin's kingbird. They're really beautiful birds, especially if you see like
Morning.
from the back or from the side. The coloring on them is just gorgeous. And there was yet another Cassin's kingbird in this tree. I couldn't believe how close it was. It was right there. And this isn't even cropped. I did not even crop this photo. It was that close. And I stop, like whenever I'm that close and all of a sudden I see a bird, I just freeze. And then I very slowly lift my camera, extend my lens, and pray that the bird will stay. The sound of the shutter usually bothers them, but this one still stayed. And I tried to go around to get a better view of it, like from the front, but I couldn't without like going all the way up to their front door, and I didn't want to do that. So then I came back around, tried to get another shot, and it flew away. I try to not disturb the birds, but I do try to get my pictures. Most of the time, the hawks seem to be the boldest birds. Sometimes the crows and ravens are, but the hawks, some of them I've gone like right up to them when they're sitting in low branches, and they're not even afraid. Like they just sit there and look at me like, what do you think you're gonna do? And it's like, I'm just gonna take your picture. But some of them don't care about my camera, some of them are very bothered. There was something here, I forget what it was. Oh, it was parrots, that's right. I think you can hear them on the recording. There are wild parrots here, and they were there, but my camera didn't focus on them well. I will definitely share more about my camera in the future. But thank you for joining me on my walk, and that's all for today. Please hit subscribe and the bell icon.